This new team?
Yeah, I feel pretty good. I'm still getting used to playing with my new teammates, but for the most part, it's just basketball, universal sport, so pretty cool.
Is it different though in that?
Everybody watched Caitlin Clark get hit, shoved, and targeted night after night. But what the WNBA didn't expect was Indiana finally fighting back. Now the league is in full panic mode because the Fever may have just unleashed the ultimate enforcer. And the message is terrifyingly clear. Touch Caitlin Clark again, and there will be consequences. This isn't just basketball anymore. This is war for the future of the WNBA. Caitlin Clark entered the WNBA carrying enormous expectations. But what happened next shocked the entire basketball world. Fans weren't just watching a rookie-adjusted professional basketball. They were watching what many believed was a coordinated effort to physically break down the biggest star women's basketball had ever seen. Every game seemed to include another hard foul, another blindside shove, another collision that sent Clark crashing onto the hardwood, while millions of viewers exploded online demanding answers. From the very beginning, Clark arrived under a spotlight unlike anything the WNBA had ever experienced. She instantly transformed television ratings, sold out arenas across the country, and became the face of the league before even finishing her rookie season. Corporate sponsors rushed toward her. National media coverage skyrocketed. Every Fever game suddenly became must-watch television. But while fans celebrated her arrival, many people believe some veterans inside the league viewed her rise very differently. For years, established players had fought for respect, recognition, and financial stability while playing in front of half-empty arenas and receiving limited media attention. Then suddenly, a 22-year-old rookie arrived and changed the economic landscape of the sport almost overnight. Ticket prices exploded. Charter flights became a league-wide conversation. Television ratings shattered expectations. And standing at the center of the entire revolution was Caitlin Clark. That's when fans began noticing something strange. Opponents weren't simply defending Clark aggressively. They appeared determined to wear her down physically. Defenders bumped her constantly off the ball. Veterans challenged every drive with extreme contact. Some games felt less like basketball and more like survival. Supporters argued that referees allowed far too much physicality, often swallowing their whistles while Clark absorbed hard hits on national television. Social media erupted after nearly every Fever game. Analysts debated whether the league was protecting its biggest star. Fans accused opponents of jealousy. Others claimed the physicality was simply part of professional basketball. But regardless of opinion, the conversation kept growing louder because the footage spoke for itself. Time after time, Clark hit the floor while opponents walked away smirking or celebrating the physical tone of the game. Then came the Olympic controversy. Despite becoming the biggest story in women's basketball and helping drive unprecedented attention toward the WNBA, Clark was left off Team USA's Olympic roster. Official explanations focus on experience and roster balance, but fans immediately suspected something deeper. Online debate exploded as millions questioned whether veteran players and league insiders were trying to slow Clark's rise before she completely took over the sport. The backlash was massive. To Clark supporters, the Olympic snub became proof that resentment toward the rookie superstar had spread beyond the court itself. They believed parts of the basketball establishment were uncomfortable watching one young player dominate headlines, endorsement deals, and fan attention so quickly. And as tensions continued building around the league, one terrifying realization started growing inside the Indiana Fever organization. Their superstar needed protection. The Fever understood something that became impossible to ignore. Pure offensive talent meant nothing if their franchise player kept getting battered night after night. Clark wasn't just another rookie. She was the centerpiece of the league's future growth. Every sold-out arena, every ratings increase, every sponsorship deal somehow connected back to her presence. And yet Indiana was watching their most valuable asset absorb constant punishment with little resistance from officials. That's when the philosophy inside the organization reportedly began to change. The Fever no longer needed only shooters and scorers around Clark. They needed toughness. They needed physicality. Most importantly, they needed someone willing to fight back. And that decision would completely change the balance of power inside the WNBA. As criticism surrounding the treatment of Caitlin Clark continued exploding across sports media, the Indiana Fever quietly began embracing a completely different identity. The organization realized they couldn't survive in the increasingly hostile environment surrounding their superstar unless they added serious physical toughness to the roster. Basketball history has always included enforcers. Michael Jordan had teammates willing to battle in the paint and protect him physically. Kobe Bryant played beside veterans who controlled the emotional intensity of games. Steph Curry benefited from Draymond Green establishing a physical edge that discouraged defenders from crossing certain lines. Great superstars often needed someone willing to do the dirty work. And according to fans, the Fever finally understood the same reality. That's why the arrival of tougher, more physical players around Clark immediately became one of the biggest storylines in women's basketball. One name quickly stood out above the rest: Myisha Hines-Allen. Fans viewed Hines-Allen as exactly the type of player Indiana desperately needed. Fearless, aggressive, strong, and completely unafraid of confrontation. Her presence instantly changed the energy surrounding the Fever. Suddenly, opponents could no longer focus entirely on targeting Clark without consequences. Every hard foul became magnified. Every cheap shot risked retaliation. And the psychological impact across the league was immediate. Viewers started noticing defenders backing away from reckless challenges. Opposing players seemed more cautious around Clark. Television commentators began discussing the Fever's growing toughness. Even the body language around the team looked different. Instead of appearing overwhelmed by the physicality of the league, Indiana slowly started pushing back. And for the first time all season, Clark looked free, without the constant fear of absorbing dangerous contact every possession. She began playing with greater confidence and aggression offensively. Her passing became sharper. Her shooting became more relaxed. Her overall command of the game started reaching another level. The rookie who once looked exhausted by non-stop physical battles suddenly looked empowered. That transformation forced the entire WNBA to respond. Referees began facing increased scrutiny for inconsistent officiating. Analysts debated whether the league needed stricter enforcement against dangerous plays. Sports media started discussing player safety almost daily. What previously may have been dismissed as part of the game now generated national controversy every time Clark hit the floor. The league understood the stakes. Caitlin Clark had become the centerpiece of the most important growth period in WNBA history. Television ratings were exploding. Arena attendance was surging. Sponsors were investing heavily. And nearly every major storyline somehow connected back to Clark's presence. The league could no longer afford non-stop controversy surrounding the treatment of its biggest attraction. That's why the bodyguard narrative became so powerful. Fans didn't just want Clark to survive physically. They wanted the Fever to prove they would defend their superstar at all costs. They wanted visible toughness. They wanted accountability. Most importantly, they wanted opponents to think twice before turning games into wrestling matches. And from that moment forward, the atmosphere around Indiana basketball completely changed. Every Fever matchup suddenly carried playoff-level intensity. Every confrontation generated viral headlines online. Every nationally televised game felt bigger than basketball itself because fans believed they were witnessing a battle over the future identity of women's sports. On one side stood the old guard, veterans who believed respect had to be earned through years of sacrifice. On the other stood a new generation led by Caitlin Clark, bringing unprecedented attention, money, and mainstream popularity into the sport. The collision between those worlds created one of the most dramatic storylines modern basketball had ever seen. But perhaps the most dangerous outcome for the rest of the league was this. All the pressure, hostility, and physical targeting may have accidentally created an even stronger superstar. By the end of the season, Clark no longer looked like a rookie trying to survive. She looked tougher mentally, sharper emotionally, and completely prepared for the chaos surrounding her rise. Every hard foul, every hostile crowd, and every controversial moment seemed to fuel her confidence rather than destroy it. Now, with a tougher roster, growing chemistry, and teammates willing to stand beside her through every battle, the message to the rest of the basketball world feels impossible to ignore. The days of pushing Caitlin Clark around without consequences may finally be over, and the WNBA may never be the same again.